The design must be approved by Eagle. So the regulatory oversight is an additional benefit to the public within Grand Traverse County and the city of Traverse City. Without that, essentially, developers have the obligation to meet their due care requirements, but they do not have to have regulatory oversight other than stating, we have met our due care requirements, we've installed a vapor mitigation system, or we've removed the soil per, Part 201. These programs really give that extra benefit in twofold. It's an extra benefit to make sure we mitigate risk to the community, addressing environmental contamination. So these funds do not go to anything other than mitigating environmental risks, meeting due care obligations. It has nothing to do with the hard construction of this project. It has nothing to do with, financing related to that hotel.
Yeah, but it's still attached to this project. If it was, let's clean up the waterfront, let's mitigate risk, let's do due care on this piece of property, I'd be all for it. But it is attached to this project, and I'm not convinced that this is the best use of our public.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair. Sir, I'm sorry, I must have been sleeping in the first part of that before Ms. Shaw's question. So this is where our involvement is going to, so Eagle give them, so they can qualify for an Eagle grant and a loan. What's the dollar amount that this BRA is putting in?
None.
Okay. I'm glad I asked that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So when I look it up on my map, 124 West Front's the Huntington Bank, or whatever bank it is. But this is the
This is a hole in the ground.
Thank you
Next to
for
JS.
cleaning that up for me.
Yeah,
Thank
the big
you.
hole that's basically been there for 10 years plus.
I share some of Ms. Shaw's concerns,
18.
but that hole's been there forever, and it needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
But, if we get bamboozled a second time, I'm not going to be very happy. So.
Oh. Well, I mean, and Ann brings out a very good point that we have to isolate what the Brownfield is responsible for and what the funds are going for compared to who is taking the charge on putting capital in that particular project. What we're ultimately looking for is to remove the contamination, keep the quality of the bays and all other bodies of water, and that's what this is going for.
Yeah, I mean, there's basically 2 point sources, that we're dealing with here, right? We have the release from the leaking underground storage tank. We're right on the Boardman. The Boardman River is right there. So by eliminating the contamination on this property, we're mitigating basically any non-point source contamination that could be leaching into the Boardman, which goes right into the bay. So, win-win there.
And I understand Heather's comments in regards to, a high-end commercial or whatever the case may be, but there's definitely a razor-blade balance of housing, commercial. You can't have commercial without the housing, and you won't have housing without the commercial for the jobs. So it's a very fine line, in my opinion. But the rock bottom issue that we're addressing here is to remove the contamination.
Well,
yes, sir, Mr. Seifert.
Sorry about that, Chair. Front Street is not a place where we're going to build workforce housing. Some of the most expensive property. They just did some condos on the other end of Front Street, the highest per square foot in the country.
Oh.
So, I can appreciate we need workforce housing,
But we are actually trying to build workforce housing on State Street. And the more of this kind of high-end commercial development we have downtown, the more we become a dead city in the wintertime. We'll turn into a Petoskey. It's, originally this was a great idea. I understand the importance of cleaning up that site. I actually think that there shouldn't be anything built on that because we don't have a riparian buffer ordinance yet. It's too close to the Boardman. if if our water comes up again, it will flood the parking lot that's going to be at ground level, and then just wash that water right back out into the Boardman. I've seen the plans before. So, originally it was a better idea, but now, it's a boutique hotel, and here we are with the same plan. As a resident of Traverse City, I don't think we need any more high-end boutique hotels. Funding for high-end boutique hotels, public funding for high-end boutique hotels.
Does if I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I haven't had my donut today, folks. I'm a little behind.
We'll get you a donut.
Don't, 'cause if you ever see me after I've had a donut, Lisa will tell you that's a bad idea. Don't do that either. Our support of this project doesn't cost us anything. Does it affect our quote-unquote buying power and anything else?
Absolutely not.
All right. Thank you, again.
I do have a question also, if I may.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you touched on this a little bit, Ann, but do we know more maybe about what the developer's financing requirements would be? It does seem like they would need to clean this up quite a bit in order to gain financing for the project.
Actually, Eric, would you like to kind of go into all the financing capital stack? And I will, but I'd prefer the developer rep to do that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric Helzer with Advanced Redevelopment Solutions, representing 124 West Front. You saw me here before in December, and when we had talked about this project where you saw the illustrations for the project. We've been working with Eagle as far as the schedule, the financing, to address the financing from a schedule standpoint. In August, we will be having that financing in place. We ran into 3 situations on the property, a floodway situation, and a floodplain, which we knew about, and then in the bridge abutment for the pedestrian bridge crossing the river. So that required a redesign on the back rear part of the building. This project will be under construction going vertical by April of this year. However, it's been pushed back to August. So full construction docks will be completed between July and August. Those CDs are well ahead of schedule right now, and then financing will be secured at that point. They have full investor, full equity into the deal, but they just can't secure perm financing until final CDs are approved. I do want to just bring up a couple points. So this is the 4th real public attempt on a development. There were 2 others prior. 6 entire developments over nearly 20 years. The hole in the ground is something that everybody's seen and just really kind of become accustomed to. You have to go back to what this was. It was an old car auto dealership. That dealership, not only did it have underground storage tanks associated with it, had paint booths, it had other operations in repairs and so forth. It is also full of a lot of fill material. The contamination is ubiquitous across the property. So basically what that means is every piece of dirt that gets moved, if it's not properly repurposed on site, has to go off to a landfill. The developer that had proposed the workforce housing is the same development company, Great Lakes Capital. We worked almost 3 years to secure proper financing for a workforce housing development on this site. Unfortunately, with the change in regulatory environment, as well as the change in financing at Michigan Economic Development Corporation, we were unable to secure a grant program that would allow for that housing. Work forward, the housing TIF was in process for being approved. It wasn't approved yet, so we were waiting for that to occur. Then we had the vote that did not allow for TIF amendments. The plan was to amend the TC Place plan in order to include housing development activities. We can't do that any longer. We have thoroughly exhausted every attempt to come up with financing to do workforce housing. So the developer has an arm in their company that is hotels. They paid and closed on the property while they were planning for their workforce housing, because we thought we had the financing approved by the state of Michigan, and they actually purchased the land. So they have been sitting on this asset for nearly 3 years without an ability to come up with that financing. So they had to quickly pivot. As you all mentioned, real estate on Front Street is extremely expensive. They have been paying an uncapped tax rate on this property for that duration of the time, and so they had to pivot. So fortunately, same developer, otherwise it would have had to change hands again, and you would probably not see anything on this property for another 2 or 3 years from now, because it takes that long to get a project of this scale built. So we're fortunate, really, that they had the ability to pivot into this wonderful development that's going to increase value in Traverse City tremendously. To Ann's point, yes, 100% of these costs that we're talking about here were approved back in 2020. Here we are in 2026. We've completed all the investigations. We're about 75–80% design complete on the vapor mitigation system with the use of these funds. So this isn't new money. This is an amendment. We're amending it in order to get us to August so that we can deploy the balance of the funds to address the soil, finish the design, and actually install the vapor mitigation system on the building.
Does that help?
Anything else, Aaron, on that?
I might have missed this along the way, because I'm kind of new to the board, but can maybe you expand on the hotel arm of this developer, or is there contractor plan to sell this development to another company
No,
or
they
chain or-
develop, they operate, they own the hotel, Great Lakes Capital.
Okay.
So in their portfolio, what that means is
Yeah.
they do like housing development, that they also do their, development team, but they also do hotel development.
So there's
Oh,
three
yeah.
main components to Ann's point. There's the hotel division, there's a multifamily division, and then there's a warehouse division within there. They do other things, but those are their three primary divisions for this company. Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Anything else you want to add?
All good. Appreciate your support. Thank you.
Very good. So with that discussion amongst this board, another glitch. Any further discussion amongst this board? Hearing none, there's some recommended action to be taken on this. Is there anybody going to make a motion? Other than I will recommend that the Eagle subgrant agreement and Eagle subloan agreement, subject to the provisions set forth in these agreements, subject to, what was the terms you used? Matter and form.
Approval as to form by the Brownfield attorney and substance by the Brownfield director.
Thank you, that's my motion.
I will second that.
Any discussion on said motion? I have an inkling that there will be some votes different, so could we do a roll call, please?
Support.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay, so that completes 11A. We'll move on to 11B, the Flats Phase 2 LDHA LLC multifamily residential apartment. 500,000 grant request. Ann, can you give us a synopsis of this as well?
Yes. First, I'd like to introduce Carl Fulmer. He is the executive director with the Traverse City Housing Commission. This project came before discussion started back in the, I want to say early summer, May, June, with Garfield Township, the Traverse City Housing Commission, and the development team who is partnering with the Traverse City Housing Commission. They are the Limited Dividend Housing Association partner that basically are structuring this project to receive an application for low-income housing tax credits. So this is a traditional low-income housing tax credit project. The area medium incomes, which some of you have been familiarized with over the last several years, targets folks earning between 30% area medium income up to 70% AMI. So this is a traditional LIHTC deal. The process of financing the development for this multifamily residential apartment has been somewhat challenging. And so this is not a traditional brownfield in the sense that it's contaminated. However, this qualifies under our new definition of brownfield for housing property. And housing property can include any type of housing, whether it's low income, workforce, or market, to be honest, and a blend thereof. So we had been working through how to structure the financing on this with the development team, trying to find different solutions. So Garfield Township has approved or is approving a 4% pilot. A pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes, and that's a traditional pilot, not a workforce housing pilot. It's a pilot that's basically imposed on low-income housing tax credits. That addresses the tax obligation to a certain extent on the property and positively affects the cash flow in terms of servicing any debt because they don't have another obligation for additional costs for taxes. However, they still had a gap in their financing. So we had been working through all sorts of different scenarios with Garfield Township, with our Brownfield Authority, looking at where and how can we support with MISHDA, also being the state agency who's also participating in this project for support needed to close that gap. So the planned development is multi-phased. This is project number 2 of the original development. They have already secured and constructed phase 1. And again, partnership with Traverse City Housing Commission, who currently owns the property. Correct, you guys own the land. Yeah. So the gap that they were trying to address was twofold. They had gaps in infrastructure costs, gaps in site preparation to implement the second phase. Garfield Township also worked with the development team and the Traverse City Housing Commission on applying for infrastructure funding through MISHDA, I believe, and were successfully awarded a portion of the request for additional infrastructure for the entire development. So part of phase 2, but also addressing the larger piece. So this local brownfield revolving fund grant would come in to cover the other costs that make this project infeasible without gap funding available. And so it's specific to low-income housing, and the request is attached, and the eligible costs are identified in detail. The eligible costs are actually over 1.7 million, and we are recommending providing 500,000 of that 1.7 million. So it will address Eagle Department specific activities related to their due diligence activities like BEAs, things like phase 1s, phase 2s, the MISHDA regulatory requirements that go with LIHTC deals for environmental infrastructure improvements that are not covered by the other infrastructure grant coming in from MISHDA, and site preparation activities.
Scott?
And that loan is repaid from Eagle, right? Not from the developer?
This is an actual,
The $500,000, it says it's a loan, or is it a grant?
It's a grant. What, was it written up as a loan? Are you looking at the application?
Yeah, it must be.
Oh, you are. Yeah, there's not a checkbox for the grant piece, so, I'm sorry. Yes, correct. There's not a checkbox for the grant piece, as it usually comes in as a loan. But for nonprofit organizations, our policy has been to support low-income housing tax credit projects, in particular with the Traverse City Housing Commission as a partner with grant funding.
Yeah,
Carver's-
Housing Commission owns the property, right?
Correct.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Heather, any questions?
No, this is a project I fully support.
I was just curious, the 500,000 grant out of 1.7 million qualified costs. What was that conversation? Why 500,000 specifically?
It was based on previous, yes, Eric.
So the need is not 1.7 million. So what we wanted to be able to do is identify enough eligible costs depending on how they come in. It's just easier for us to submit reimbursement. The actual true gap is less than $1 million. This $500,000 gets us pretty close to that. We had hoped to work through our pilot, to adjust the pilot. This is a long history here. We've been working very hard on this.
Yeah.
We're working with the township on that. That didn't pan out as an option. We also looked at the housing TIF as an approach. Unfortunately, that would commit us to the future phases, which we do not know when those future phases are actually going to unfold. So we can really only address the phase that's ahead of us now. So, we're able to basically cover that gap internally within the development project team.
Thank you.
Yep.
Address your questions. Any others?
Yes, nope.
Anybody else? Well, as you
the
can
party.
notice, there's a recommendation. Anybody willing to entertain said recommendation, or would you like to come up on your own, with your own?
I'll make the motion, we approve the recommendation as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Seifert, seconded by Shaw. Any discussion on said? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Good luck. Mhm.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
You may.
thank you. I'd like to strongly suggest that in the future, that there be a spot in here for a brownfield grant instead of loan, because it's misleading until you explain it.
I will make sure to amend that
Thank you.
section. Yeah.
Noted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll move on to item, what was this, 11C, Development Reimbursement Agreement, Traverse City Central Park Apartments, East Bay Township. Ann, could you give us an overview of this as well, please?
Yes. This is the Traverse City Central Park Apartments Brownfield project that it was approved last year. It is located in East Bay Township. This, again, is a blend of workforce housing, so there's a range of incomes that were qualified and target rents that were approved by, concurrently approved by the township, this board, and then adopted and approved by the Board of Commissioners. So once the Board of Commissioners approves the Brownfield plan, it then comes back to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to approve the development and reimbursement agreement. That development and reimbursement agreement essentially says, we have a contract, right, between Traverse City Central, Maple Groves Investment LLC, those are the two LLCs that are doing this development, and the Charter Township of East Bay, and the Grand Traverse County Brownfield Authority. So it lays out what the requirements are to seek reimbursement, the reporting requirements, the obligations that we have to track and, essentially reimburse those property tax dollars that are paid incrementally following the post-construction period. So Today, this is really the final step before they submit a MISHDA, Act 381 work plan. That work plan will go into MISHDA for final review for support of state education tax and school operating taxes. This development and reimbursement agreement is a requirement as part of that work plan submittal, and also a requirement by our authority to make sure that we have a contract with the developers.
Okay. Scott, you have any questions?
I do, actually. I'm gonna say that look on my face today. So what was the East Bay Township's buy-in on this?
So East Bay Township's attorneys reviewed this agreement. East Bay Township is implementing with Tart Trails an extension of the trail system in this area of this. I mean, it's a big development, right? It's almost 20 acres. So they're doing a Tart Trail Connect, and so East Bay Township's portion of this was a portion of the trail is going to be reimbursed to East Bay for their upfront funding of that public infrastructure as allowable. And then the development team is getting reimbursed for other housing development activities as well as the potential rent loss that was essentially laid out in that Brownfield plan. Does that make sense?
Well, it kind of sounds like that they're not really in for anything. They're just being reimbursed for the money they put up front.
No. You know that they contribute their tax, so all taxing jurisdictions essentially contribute proportionally the tax revenues that would otherwise go to those taxing jurisdictions for properties that are included in Brownfield plan. So it essentially includes, school, library, like a whole laundry list of other
Yeah, the millages.
millages,
the operating
yeah.
millages, yeah.
But also inclusive of East Bay Township millages, as well as county millages.
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I wasn't asking about the developers of the I'm asking about East Bay Township governmentally. So they just put 220 acres in a conservation easement. They got $3.3 million worth of construction, which they spent no money on, which made this very viable. And I really love the breakdown on the AMIs, on the apartments. That's what sold it to the county board.
Yeah.
It was great. It's a great project, but, to some of the points that have been made today, I'm getting to feel like we're a bank for some of the municipalities around here that aren't putting any skin in the game. And that's not something that I wish to see continue.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm done. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, and I understand that comment there, and I'm just gonna play something that I've heard also as well, that it's in their community, so it's a pass or fail. It's gonna impact them one way or another, negatively or positively. So, that's just something also to consider in the background, whether I agree or disagree. Heather? No,
No. This is a great project. I see your point, Scott, but I mean, I feel like this is the reason why government exists, is to help bring some kind of equity. And I see that East Bay is maybe not putting skin in the game, but on the other hand, there is increased traffic, increased infrastructure, demands. I don't know.
I mean, this, guys, we've approved, guys.
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, it's already been approved, so.
We've already
yeah.
approved the Brownfield plan. I'm appreciative of the debate, but, we can debate that further, and I mean, I think that it warrants further discussion, so you have better tools, a better understanding of how the process works with how everybody contributes to these projects overall. But really, the intent today is to improve that legal document that.
And
To
if
form
I
and
can,
content by attorney and administrator.
if I can extrapolate a little bit on not putting any skin on the game, the City of Traverse City, or DDA, could very well have invested money to or requested an Eagle grant to clean up that property without waiting for a boutique hotel to come along, and so.
Duly noted. You're right.
Yep.
Well, there is
Okay, any other discussions on that? Hearing none, there's a recommendation.
I'll make the motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
Support. We have a motion by Seifert, supported by, did I hear support down there before?
That's okay, you can have it.
Gee, thanks. Support by Radke. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Okay, that concludes new business. We'll move on to item number 12, the second public comment period. Same rules that apply here, applied to the first one. I'd ask that your eyes go to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Here's an opportunity. Anybody want to exercise that opportunity? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 13, additional board comments. Any other comments this board would like to talk about? Ideas, thoughts? Okay, hearing none. Notices. I'm not aware of any, and there's none noted, so we'll move on to item 15, special matters. 2 degrees out, stay warm. With that, we'll move on to item number 16, which would be the adjournment. We'd adjourn this meeting at 9:53 a.m.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.